All right, everybody, we are working on the vet. And that said, we've made some progress. The wiring harness is looking way better now. So I've rewrapped this side. That's what we started with, garbage. And this is what we've got now. And it's much tidier. So actually, I suppose with all of this done, I could probably put the ignition coil cover on. I have to finish down here still, but we're very close on this side of things. So we're going to go cut back all this garbage and really clean up this side of the harness, and we'll see where we are from there. The only other thing I may do is upgrade this starter wire here that goes from here down to our starter. Obviously, it's starter wire. The hot starts are not great, and the larger gauge wire would probably help knock some of the resistance down when it gets hot, but we'll see what we do. Things to note: that's our flex fuel plug, and then our throttle connector is over here, and it'll go underneath the manifold and keep everything super tidy. So stay tuned. We're going to get some work done. I'm going to hit up a time lapse, and here we go. So we have a slight interference fit here that we have to deal with. So if we install this bracket here, hold on. All right, so if we install this coil bracket here, we get a little bit of an interference fit. Now, I think if I cut here, that'll let it come through. Now, I think if I cut out right here and here, right, we'll have this ear to mount the coil to, and this bottom plate will still hold here. So that'll triangulate fine. And what that'll allow to happen is this to go underneath here, like through this little divot. And that gets me where I need to go. Nice and happy. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's what we're going to do. I hate to do this, but I think that's what we're going to do. Because otherwise, if we were to remove, oh, for crying out loud, this freaking coil bracket, get back here, you piece of plastic garbage. Let's look here. So if we were to remove this, as we had seen before, this fits lovely. So I think my problem's going to come in where I just have to get it to go under this bracket. So I think we're going to cut this, and I'll be back in a few minutes. Let's see how that goes. So here's where we're at. I took the manifold back off. With the adjustment to the coil bracket, the fuel line fits perfect, so we're going to leave that be. What I'm waiting for is a half-inch quarter connector, so I can connect the vacuum tube here for the MPP exhaust to the brake booster hose, because I need a vacuum source for that, and there isn't one here. We're also waiting for this connector to come in for the map sensor, and that's most of what we have to deal with. Then we have our evap lines here, which should not be that big of a deal. I will have to shorten this to about here, I think, and obviously we'll do that once this goes back on for more mock-up. Other than that, we have to, well, let's take a look at the car. 1 second. Other item we have to do, we got to take the fender off, which means bumper has to come off, headlight has to come out, and fender has to come off so I can get down to the ECU and plug in the flex fuel sensor. Now, you may have noticed in other videos, this fitment is shit. I got backed into, actually, last year, and I was fortunate enough to be able to buff out all the paint damage and replace just one bad bracket, and they missed the hood. But when I put it together, I did an admittedly shitty job of putting this back in a fitting way, so I'm going to try to take this thing apart and get that to fit up properly. The other side is not much better, so we'll do what we can. But yeah, we have to pull this fender off of here to get down way where you can't see to plug in this guy to pin 40, which is the bottom plug, on the ECU for the flex fuel sensor, and then we can turn that on in the tune. We'll get back with this in a couple hours. I'm waiting for some deliveries to come in of parts. I should have hoses for the PCV system available today. as well as a couple of the fittings I need for the neck of the... Gotta go back over to the manifold. One sec. So I'm also waiting for fittings for here and over here because I need a fitting for the evap, and I also need the crankcase vents. I'm not sure, but we'll see. So stay tuned. I'll be back when my parts show up.
3 hours later.
Alright, so we got some parts in. We have our stock brake booster hose, and I heated this up in hot water to get it over this fitting. A nice silicone hose that's going to go to the NPP valve, and then we have this going to the brake booster itself. So let's lay this on the motor. We'll see how that fits, and we're also going to take care of this evap hose once and for all, so that'll be done. And then all we'll have to do is the throttle boot, the catch can / PCV, and finally bolted together. So that'll be it. So I'll be back in just a second. Right, so the manifold is laid back on the engine, and what I've gone and done is this. With the fuel line hooked up, I've connected my T for the NPP takeoff right here, and I think that's going to live just like that, tucked out of the way. You can't see it, no big deal. The only thing I have to figure out now is whether this hose will go over or under the fuel line. I'm leaning towards, at this point, under. Now that goes like that, and then if we cut it, we can stick it right there, and that gives me a couple inches till the header. So if I had to, I could always wrap it or put something on it to shield it from heat, and I think that would be fine. The only other item I have to worry about is this alternator cable, which currently is sitting way too close to the header. Normally it would run up here and around, which I'm not in love with the concept, so we'll see how that fits. We'll check back in just a minute. There we go, guys. So the booster hose is good, and that'll run along back. It goes behind the oil pressure switch, not that you can see it. Our NPP valve is still connected like it ought to be right here. And you can't see that either. That sits down nice like that when it's hooked up. We're looking good. Alternator. I've decided that running that underneath is the answer. Where did my throttle plug go? Oh, there it is. It's over here. Silly me, silly me. Boom. Throttle plugs in. Boom. MAF sensor plugs in, which I haven't decided how I'm going to route the wires for that yet, but we'll worry about that in a minute. Now, why don't we take care of the evap? Can you see the evap hose? Just barely. So that's wrapped in. Now we have to go get our AN hose cutters, and we will make the connections. So let's take a look at how this will work. So how this is going to work is this will come to here, and that'll be that. And then we will have this port come from here to there. That should be all it needs, and I'm hoping that's all it needs. So let's go get this cut and mock it up. Alright, so we have this cut, and that's good, but it turns out that the 45 I thought I was going to use is not the answer. The 90 is the answer. So we're going to get that fitting switched out, shorten the hose, and this will be great. I'm really happy with this. Alright, I've taken a moment to think about this, and I think what I'm going to do is this. Connect this valve cover to that valve cover to the dry sump tank here, and we're going to run this line to the intake boot post MAF, because that's how stock was, and I only had issues with it sucking oil out of here. So from the valley, I think what we'll do is we'll get a catch can that goes, I don't know, somewhere. I may not get the Mighty Mouse. It's like $400, and it just seems ridiculous for a can. But we'll get a catch can and put it in line to the manifold here, and I think that'll suffice. So unless anyone has any better suggestions, I think that's what I'm going to go with. I guess what I'll do is I'm going to put my 90 barb instead of right here on the far side, and then connect my evap hose to it, and we can call that a job done. So the evap system is taken care of, the fuel system is done, the vacuum system is done, with the exception of, obviously, the crankcase ventilation. That'll be the last thing we have to do, plus the boot to replace this boot here, because that's 4 1/4, that's 4 inches. Obviously, those aren't compatible. So, oh yeah, and we still got to plug this into the ECU, but we'll deal with that later. I want to get the other stuff knocked out because undecided. Anyways, as always, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and like I said, if you have any constructive criticism or comments, I'm all ears. And beyond that, I will get back with you guys pretty soon. So thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next one.